episode 126. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by, hopefully for the whole podcast, Michael Swick, internet pending.
Yeah, I mean, I can't promise anything, apparently, because my internet just decided 10 minutes before recording that it's just going to take a nosedive. So sorry for those watching on Twitch or the YouTube archive. This might be a little choppy, but yeah, we'll get through it.
All right. All right, so we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that post weekly every Thursday, 6 a.m. Eastern Time on podcast services. We live stream on Twitch, typically Tuesday evenings, twitch.tv/Digital Days Gaming, where you can subscribe to us if you link your Amazon account and your Twitch account, if you have that, or you can just do a paid subscription. Please do us a favor and just check your subscription. Our subs are a little lower than normal, or a lot lower than normal. It doesn't auto-renew. Most of you have done a fantastic job of supporting us. I know that we haven't been live streaming as much as we probably should, other than Tuesdays, to show that we're there. I'm going to try to, as I'm starting to establish a new routine with my new store again, to try to pick that up a little bit more. But if you could just check. Even if you don't watch us live, just if you already have a Twitch account and you're not using the sub on somebody else, it doesn't auto-renew. So if you could just take a look at it, and even if we're not live, you can just sub to us, and that'd be super, super helpful. But other than that, leaving a review on the show on podcast services, whether it's iTunes or Podcast Addict, Spotify, any of those that you can leave reviews, and if you're able to leave them with words, that helps us move up the algorithms, especially with like some of the stuff that we've been talking about, the PS Plus changes. People are looking into that kind of stuff. The acquisitions, all the Activision news, just as bigger news breaks, we definitely see big peaks and valleys. So the more people that are checking us out and listening, the more helpful it is. So tell a friend to tell a friend to tell their neighbor. Other than that, any other of the show notes or any other links or important community aspects are going to be in the show notes. So we've actually got a little bit of news to talk about, so I'm going to throw it back over to Michael.
All right. The first story is not quite acquisition news, but it's investment news. Sony and Lego have invested $1 billion each into Epic Games. So Epic Games recently were doing I forget what they call it exactly, but they're just like trying to raise funds. So they basically went on a campaign to raise funds from different companies for their Metaverse ideas, which is, of course, a thing every company wants in on. So Sony invested $1 billion. They already had like 450 or 500 million invested in Epic through the previous rounds of investments. So now they're up to $1.5 billion in Epic Games. And then Lego wanted in on a Metaverse action and have made an agreement with Epic to look at a Metaverse that is safe for children to be in. So they are invested in that as well. So yeah, I just, no one can really explain what the Metaverse is yet. But a lot of companies don't want to be left in the dust, so they're throwing money at any company that's big enough that is mentioning Metaverse, and that is what this is about. Dave, what do you think about all these companies giving Epic billions?
I think that they're like some of the stuff I've been trying to pay a little bit more attention to, like the Metaverse stuff, and like listening to some people and reading very, 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 very little, but it seems like there's a lot of people that are saying, well, so-and-so doesn't know anything about the Metaverse, and so-and-so does. And, like, I don't think anybody really knows what it is right now. And it's just this area that they don't want to, no company wants to be, like, caught with their pants down. Like, oh, we're not part of it. And then try to catch up. And then it costs them 11 times what it should cost. So I think that everybody's trying to be out in front at whatever it costs, good, bad, or indifferent. I think personally that this Sony thing, and maybe even Lego, similar to like the conversation we had about CD Projekt Red, is I don't know where the line would be drawn going forward, but I feel like this almost guarantees, in my opinion, that Sony's games are going to be on Unreal like after 2025.
I don't think it would go that far, but I think they would be more open to working on Unreal, because there are some games that are on the Unreal Engine already.
Right,
for the
but
most
I
part.
almost think that, like, to your point, like as you've been talking about it more, where okay, we want to do, our aspiration is to do this, and then they go to the Unreal team and say, make it work. Like, this is what versus them having to do it. So it gives them more time to develop the game instead of like working on the engine. Because like, I feel, and I don't know, because they don't really talk about this as much, or I don't know what Spider-Man runs on. I don't know what God of War runs on. I think Days Gone ran on Unreal 4.
Yeah.
So I don't know what Naughty Dog uses. I believe, like, we've heard like the term like proprietary engine, like their engine. Like, we know that Horizon is on Guerrilla's engine. Guerrilla has given their engine tech to Kojima for Death Stranding, or parts of it.
Yeah.
So like their engines are solid, but I think it's gonna come to a point where if Sony wants to continue to possibly port to PC easier, as well as hopefully use some of the cloud, like Unreal might be the way to go just going forward. And that investment into them, is more solidifying. Could it be more expensive now? Yeah, but would it, like, in 12 years, would it possibly be cheaper if, based on how Unreal's engine royalties work, like if you use their stuff and your game blows up to a certain plateau, to a certain point, they get a flat percentage, and then if it goes over that point, they get a bigger percentage. So like, Sony wouldn't have to sign that deal. I'm assuming CD Projekt Red didn't have to sign that deal. Microsoft doesn't sign that deal. They say, hey, we want to use the engine. Any of them say, hey, we want to use the engine for X game, and Epic says, okay, it'll cost you this much. And I feel like that cost maybe is gone now with this investment. Possibly. Potentially.
But to your point, I can see Sony maybe not moving like a Naughty Dog or a Guerrilla away from their engines, but with all the acquisitions they're making, those studios are probably already are just like, we use the Unreal Engine as our thing.
Right.
So Sony's like, okay, we've acquired 10 studios and they all use Unreal. Let's invest in Epic just to continue that friendship through that. Yeah. So Naughty Dog will probably be safe. Guerrilla will be safe, but all the other studios, they're not going to transition to Guerrilla or Naughty Dog's engine. Right.
Well, there's also a point that if Guerrilla wants to make a different game, like, a broader Horizon, I don't know, or like whatever this other rumored like esports shooter that they may or may not be working on, and like that's probably already, like, the engine's probably already decided if they are truly working on something. But Horizon's next IP probably could be on Unreal.
Yeah, there's a chance, that when they break away with a new IP.
But why would you want it? If you're Sony, why would you invest $1.5 billion, which is borderline the cost of an acquisition, into this company just for? Yeah, I get it. At the same time, the meta thing, but like, why would you use Guerrilla's time to work on another engine?
Yeah,
because like, whatever Guerrilla may or may not be making as a new IP, let's call it a PS6 title, it's going to have to be on the engine's either going to need to be upgraded, overhauled, or started over.
Depending.
And if you're going to start over, you might as well just go to Unreal.
Yeah, I mean, but also depends on how deep that engine is into your stuff, because, you build the talent around the tool set that you have. But I don't know. I also think, like, because this is Sony making the investment, and their own, they own PlayStation. So the $1 billion could literally be just like the people at Sony being like, oh, we have movies and TV.
That's the same concept as who bought Bungie, PlayStation or Sony.
Yeah. But but this one, because they're like, this is like Epic Games, and again, Epic Games, the Unreal Engine makes movies now. And there's so many different aspects of Sony that this would work really well with. I think this is a combination of building that friendship or that bridge for the Unreal Engine, making sure that all the Sony properties could be in this metaverse, and then also so they don't have FOMO. And if the metaverse takes
Sony's
off,
putting the money. Sony's putting the money where their mouth is. Like, they're just like, okay, like, whatever it is. Like, if Facebook's making their own meta thing, Epic's making their own meta thing. Or, like, whatever. Like, Sony's choosing Epic.
Yeah.
Like, that's all. So
basically, you got to pick a metaverse to go in.
And it's going to be the Blu-ray versus HD DVD all over again.
Yeah. And neither company knows what exactly their
there
planning.
there was a while there where Blu-ray and HD were like neck and neck. Like everybody's like, oh, do I get the Blu-ray? Do I get the HD? And then something, I don't even remember what happened, but something just happened. Either the Blu-ray players got dramatically cheaper faster, as an example. I know it's a terrible example, but it's kind of not.
Yeah,
like
I think it was the porn industry again. No, I'm not. I'm completely serious because that's what.
No, but I mean the cost of players too.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. No, it was the cost of players.
Yeah.
It was the game console. That played a part.
Right. PS2, right?
PS3.
Blu-ray?
PS3 was Blu-ray.
Yeah.
That played a cost into it. But like, it sounds funny, but the porn industry always tends to like that's what made VHS beat Betamax.
That's probably going to be what dictates the metaverse too.
Oh yeah. It's gonna get weird, and then it's gonna be like who's gonna big company.
Obviously, like Wyatt chimes in, like Disney went Blu-ray, like that was like probably like the tipping stone, like to where somebody's like, okay, we got all this money from Disney now, like we can lower the cost of the players, and it just snowballed.
Yeah,
and then that snowball got big enough that it just ate HD DVD on the way down the hill. So.
Yeah, because I think it was Disney went Blu-ray. Universal went HD DVD,
but the stuff that they're talking about, like the the grand scheme of what they want like the metaverse to be from a gaming standpoint, like I just don't see to where like I could, as an example, again a broad example, I could take my Destiny Guardian and take him into Fortnite. Like I own my guy, like he's my NP or my NFT.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I just don't see that. Oh, I buy a digital pair of Nikes and I can wear them everywhere. And I'm like, I don't like. There's a lot of moving parts that still have to get on board with that. Like, and they already have a problem with cross-playing and cross-saving.
That's why I'm just kind of hoping that I'm just too dumb to understand the metaverse, and it's actually a greater thing than what we understand of it today.
Yeah.
Like I want in 10 years to be freaked
the broad
out.
example. Yeah, the broad example of what people are like, oh, you can be, it's like Ready Player One.
Yeah.
Like kind of, but then I can like, is it going to be better for me to have like, I'm some people know this about me, some people don't. I used to be like a huge sneakerhead, and it's starting to creep back in again. Is it going to be better for me to start buying my retro Jordans in the metaverse to wear them in the digital world, or is it going to be better for me to be able to lace them up on my own feet? Like that's the the part of like, people are like, oh, and I'm like, I don't think we're close to that at all.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping that's not like what we're aiming for the metaverse. I'm hoping there's something better there, but like that is what it's going to be for the next 10 years.
Yeah. Got my digital Jordans, got them.
It's gonna be like, oh, are you in the metaverse? And you're like, oh yeah, I'm in the Epic Games one. You're like, oh, Facebook signed Nike. So your Jordans are going to be in the Facebook one. You're like, damn, guess I'm wearing Adidas.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm hoping the metaverse is actually something bigger than what the early talks of it is, but we'll see. All right, here's something that it seems we last week we talked about E3 being dead and not happening this year, and then we got like 3 game announcements that would have been big at an E3. So the first one is probably one that like Dave and me aren't really into, but I know people fucking love this franchise. So Ron Gilbert is making a new Monkey Island game. So Monkey Island Returns has been announced, and it is going to release later this year. The studio is Ron Gilbert's Terrible Toy Box. They're developing the game, Ron Gilbert, of course, being the original creator of Monkey Island. The studio is working with Disney and LucasArts, who own the rights to Monkey Island. And then Devolver Digital is going to be acting as the publisher. The game will follow Monkey Island LeChunk's Revenge, which is the second Monkey Island game. It's not going to follow the 2009 Telltale game, so it's just taking place after the second one. And they got original writers and programmers, including Dave Grossman, to work on the game. So they're bringing original developers back for this. And the game, this is the cool part, the game has actually been in development for the last 2 years in secrecy, which is pretty impressive.
Very hard to do.
Yeah.
Very, very hard to pull off.
Yeah, especially a beloved franchise. And again, Disney and LucasArts still own the rights to it, so you would think it would have leaked just from that aspect.
And an investor call or something.
Yeah. So pretty cool thing. Like, I don't know, Dave, like I know you know of the franchise, but it's a point and click adventure thing. So it definitely is not in our interests. directly.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm also kind of the camp of like, if somebody wants to play this, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's great. Like, there's obviously enough of a demand, to call for it, and that's cool. I hope that like, this means that some of these other things that we think are dormant franchises or dead franchises maybe aren't, and like, that would be really cool.
Yeah, it definitely is great to see, like, when Disney basically started to vamp up, they ended up hiring John Drake, who was at PlayStation, and then Harmonix. He definitely seems to be, like, key in talking to developers, because we're seeing, like, Sony, or not Sony, we're seeing Disney and LucasArts just kind of open up some of their franchises to other developers more, and getting back into game development. So it's been kind of cool to see that aspect of, like, Disney and LucasArts getting more involved, and not just getting involved in terms of, like, releasing stuff. They're getting partnerships with the right companies and the right people. Like, if you're going to bring this franchise back, you might as well do it with the original creators as opposed to just throwing it out there. So it's kind of cool to see that aspect of this.
And it looks better for Disney as to kind of shed the trying to be their own developer and just being like, you know what, our IPs are for sale, or our IPs are for auction or for rent, like, and their ability to do that, just to allow, like, this means that Terrible Toy Box can go, hey, this guy made this game when he worked for whatever at the time that owned it, and now, like, before it'd be like, oh, we can't get better Star Wars games or we can't get Indiana Jones games because Lucas Games doesn't exist anymore. But now they're just like, here, Ubisoft, do you want to do not Ubisoft, but Bethesda. It's Bethesda, right? Arcane. It's doing the Indiana Jones. So, like I was saying, that I think it's really cool that with Disney and LucasArts essentially deciding to rent their IPs versus developing them themselves. Like, before, like, if we wanted an Indiana Jones video game, it used to have to come from LucasArts, and now they can just sell the IP to rent the IP or whatever, or allow it to be produced by Bethesda or Arcane. And then the same thing with this game of, like, okay, like, Devolver Digital and Terrible Toy Box have a partnership together, and the guy that runs Terrible Toy Boxes made this game, made Monkey Island before, but now, like, with Disney and Lucas doing their own aspects of it, like, he can do this, which I think is a great thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, the fact that they are actually going with the route of basically just doing what Marvel is doing, where Marvel was just like, let's just partner with the right developers for the right games. And Disney must have looked at that branch and said, that's super successful. Let's do that with the LucasArts stuff, the Star Wars stuff. And now they're going to their back catalog and being like, what else do we own? And they're finding something like Monkey Island, which, it was kept in secret for 2 years, most likely because it's a smaller franchise, and I'm assuming the studio isn't too big. So they're going and taking small risks, basically, on something that if it doesn't do well, what do they lose? It's Monkey Island. But if it's successful, then they kind of can be heroes and be like, oh shit, they saved Monkey Island.
Right.
So it's very, very smart, very tactical how they're doing everything, which I appreciate. All right. The next bit of news, unless you have any more about Monkey Island.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. So Remedy announced a Max Payne 1 and 2 remake for the current gen consoles. So they are partnering up with Rockstar to bring Max Payne 1 and 2 to PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. The remakes will use Remedy's Nightlight engine, which is the engine behind Quantum Break and Control. Remedy promises the game will be at the level of their most recent AAA games, and the game is currently in the concept phase, so it is several years away. The part that I know Dave would be the most interested in is Remedy currently finished Crossfire X single player, which released back in February, and are currently working on Alan Wake 2 that's supposed to release next year, a sequel to Control, a project called Condor, and a project called Vanguard on top of Max Payne 1 and 2. So
getting stretched a little thin.
Really thin. But that's the one thing I know you would focus on, because like I was thrilled when I heard this news, but I was like, don't they have like 4 other things announced right now? And
yeah. So I guess the fact that they kind of like tempered expectations right away. Typically when you hear about a remake like this, you know, it's almost like a year from then it comes out. Mm-hmm. You know, because there's usually not a ton of stuff that has to be done. Just make it look shinier, make it look brighter, make it look prettier. Make it run at 60 frames and just call it a day. But it sounds like they're doing, this is almost like a rebuild.
Yes.
So like, well, that's really cool. We have talked about Remedy being one of these studios that could be potentially up for purchases, as you know, whether Microsoft or Sony or anybody's trying to look at what's left. But I think the more deals that they sign like this, the less likely that's going to happen, because there's more red tape. Yeah. Versus like, hey, let's get in and let's figure out what we want to do, versus now we got in, and now we got this step we got to clear, we got this step we got to clear, we got this step we got to clear, we got this step we got to clear. Who do we got to pay, you know, like to change that, because we still don't know. Like as an example, like the NetEase investment into Bungie, like we don't know if that's still a thing or not. Like
yeah,
we don't know.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, so the more stuff you see like this, the more, you know, because Rockstar has been known to be independent. Rockstar maybe is telling Remedy, like, hey, if you want to do this, like, we want you to, like, please don't be purchased by Microsoft or Sony, like, why we signed this deal. Mm-hmm. Like, because then they don't want to, like, if you're Rockstar, you want your stuff on everything possible. So if Sony purchases them, as an example, then, you know, how would Rockstar feel about it only going on PlayStation platforms? Or vice versa, if Microsoft purchased them, how would Rockstar feel with it being on Game Pass? They've been open to Game Pass, but now it's like, oh, wait a minute, it's just on Game Pass, like, automatically, like, we don't have any conversation around this?
Yeah.
Like, that's different. So
yeah, it definitely feels like Remedy is a company that is avoiding an acquisition, which is why they have 5 game announcements, each one with like a different company, because of the red tape you were talking about.
Stay away.
Yeah, to where they're like, okay, we need to find out a way to stay independent, and the only way to do that is to stretch ourselves out over the next 10 years through several different deals. Because they might just want to be an independent studio. I mean, if you look at it like a couple years ago when like Vivendi was trying to buy Ubisoft's like, no, we want to stay independent. Of course, that changed now, where Ubisoft's like, we would be open to being acquired. But like at the time, Ubisoft was doing whatever they could to avoid being acquired. And I feel like Remedy might be in that play where they're just like, you know what? We want to stay independent, but we know an acquisition would mean money, and we need to justify to ourselves we can stay independent financially, and then also keep talent there. Because if you're a developer, you want to have security. So if you're at a studio that only has 1 game in development, you know, your security is like, okay, I'm secure until this game's finished. But if you're at a studio, it's like, hey, we have the next 10 years planned out over 5 different projects. You're more likely to maybe stay with that company and be like,
yeah, especially if you're like an engine developer, like we were just talking about, like, okay, like you're going to start working on Alan Wake 2, and then we're going to move you, like, and then when you're done with that, we're going to move you to the Control thing to work on or your UI developer, and then your next thing is the Control sequel, and then Condor, then Vanguard, and then like kind of in between, like when you have some downtime, we're going to have you start kind of messing with Max Payne. Mm-hmm. You know, versus like, oh, we're gonna make this game and then we're gonna just see what sticks to the wall next in 2 years, and like somebody's like, especially if you're interviewing somebody, like, I don't want that.
Yeah, yeah. You're at least keeping the talent that you have busy, and if they're busy, they're more likely to be happy than fearing like, oh shit, we finished the 505 project, the Control sequel. I wonder what happens next. It's like, no, we already have, you know, funding lined up. You know, I mean, they're working with 505 for the 3 Control games, and they're working with, I think they're working with Tencent for one of their projects, and then now they're working with Rockstar. So like they're big companies backing this studio. But I know a lot of people were sad when they saw that it's only at the concept phase, but I'm assuming they just didn't want this to leak out, especially Rockstar probably didn't want this to leak out, especially after Grand Theft Auto Trilogy kind of bombed. So they probably wanted to just be like, all right, let's just sign the papers and announce it immediately. So then people won't be wondering why you guys are hiring for remaster, or you can put job ads out there and attract talent without having to be mysterious
with the word Max Payne on it now.
Yeah, which will bring people in, and then also it will keep people from creating rumors of like, oh, sure, Remedy's working on a remake of something, or if Rockstar, God forbid Rockstar makes some hires that say they're working on a remaster, everyone's going to assume it's Bully and then freak the fuck out when it's not Bully. So this is Rockstar just being like, you know what, we're tired of people talking about Bully. We're just going to announce what our next project is, and it's remaster of Max Payne 1 and 2. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do this, though, because like Max Payne is one of those games that it's still a good game, but it definitely has aged significantly. I wonder what changes you do to this game to keep it intact, to where it's still a Max Payne game. But that's the tricky part with it. And also this is the scale that they want to go in with it. There's going to be a magnifying glass on this, especially how Rockstar handled the GTA trilogies, because you thought the GTA trilogies would be handled with care because it's Grand Theft Auto. Mm-hmm. And God, were we disappointed with that.
But it didn't matter because everybody bought it.
Yep, everyone still bought it. Everyone still fucking bought that game. All right. Now here's the big story.
This last news story doesn't need to be in here at all. Like, this is not relevant.
Oh, I left the last bullet point just for you. All right, to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Kingdom Hearts, Square Enix revealed Kingdom Hearts 4. No release date on this. No platforms released on it because they don't have a release date. They're not going to give the platforms because this could be a PS6 game. I don't think it will be, though. So the trailer shows Sora waking up, finding himself in a realistic world that appears to be Kingdom Hearts' version of the afterlife. So, like, I guess when you die in Kingdom Hearts, spoilers, you end up just going to a world where you have to, like, worry about taxes and rent for your apartment, because that's basically where the fuck he woke up. In the trailer, Sora is older, he's realistic looking. You quickly see him battle, like, a big, gigantic, heartless monster. And then the thing at the end that interests me the most is because it's in a real world, you're like, how are they going to handle the Disney characters? But at the end of the trailer, you see Donald and Goofy. They're basically in the underworld looking for Sora. And then they run into Hades. So I'm assuming they think that Sora died and went to hell, which is an interesting concept for a fucking Disney game. So we at least see some Disney characters in this at the end of the trailer.
You got a lot more out of that trailer than I did.
Oh, yeah, significantly. So
I did watch the trailer.
Yeah.
But...
It's fucking wild, especially when we get to like some of the other stuff. The game was shown on Unreal Engine 4, but Nomura said that they will be transitioning to Unreal Engine 5, and he hopes that will upgrade the visuals significantly. It is one of those things when I first saw the trailer, the game looked gorgeous, but then watching it like my 5th or 6th time, I was like, oh, that game kind of looks rough, but it was just like a little slice.
It was weird for me to see like you were talking about the real world, like for Sora to pull the Keyblade out like in the real world. Like that was kind of jarring, I guess. Like
I was really hoping when he called for the Keyblade or whatever that it wouldn't come. Like he wouldn't be able to draw his Keyblade in this real world, and then that would have been part of the story, but it looks like he can do that. Yeah, it's definitely weird because like Sora looks weird, like drawn realistically. And then some of the other like NPCs didn't look quite right. But again, it's still pretty early. Especially Kingdom Hearts 3 came out in 2018. So it's definitely been a couple years. So this is early in development, especially for a Square Enix Kingdom Hearts game. If it's been in development for the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. So Nomura did say, this is where I just put this last scene in just to confuse Dave. So like the only one in the chat that would understand this is Wyatt.
Here, let me read it, then it'll sound better. So it was also mentioned that before it was decided to make a Kingdom Hearts sequel, Nomura was considering making a Verum Rex game, which was the video game that was being played in the Toy Story level in Kingdom Hearts 3, which was basically Final Fantasy 13 Versus, which eventually became Final Fantasy 15.
Yes. Is that clear, Dave? Like, I try to, like, condense that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's just so I feel like Nomura, since Final Fantasy 13. So when Final Fantasy, I don't even know how to explain this shit, or even if it's worth it. When Final Fantasy 13 was announced, it was supposed to be a whole new universe for Final Fantasy in general. It was supposed to be like a whole thing. They ended up making 3 Final Fantasy 13 games, but they also announced a game called Final Fantasy 13 Versus, which was supposed to be like in the same universe with different characters as 13. That got canned because it was in development hell. That was like at the launch. It was at like the PS3 reveal, that trailer. Mm-hmm. And it never happened. And then throughout the PS3 and PS4 generation, they're like, when is Versus 13 coming out? And they kept saying, it's in development, it'll come out eventually. That game was eventually killed and turned into Final Fantasy 15. And a lot of the concepts and ideas from Versus 13 were in 15, but they just didn't let Nomura do it. So then Final Fantasy, or Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out. And inside the Toy Story level, Rex the dinosaur is playing a video game like he does in the movies. And that game is Vernum Rex, which looked like Final Fantasy 13 Versus. And the idea that they were going to, like, Nomura is, like, fucking committed to releasing Versus 13 in some form, no matter what, is just kind of admirable.
Like, maybe like a mini game in Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, and that's basically what it was. It was a mini game that Sora popped into, and you're like, this looks like Versus 13. And then the fact that, like, at one point after Kingdom Hearts 3 was finished, he's like, I'm making fucking Vernum Rex, which is this fucking 13 Versus recoded. The fact that that was on the table is just mind-blowing. And then it looks like Kingdom Hearts 4 is just Vernum Rex and Kingdom Hearts combined. I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah, this is like similar if you've to when like big corporations are like, hey, your game idea is really cool. Like, we're gonna make it a Mario game. Well, like, you know, your kart racer is really cool. We're gonna put it in a Nintendo, but you got to put Mario in it. No, I don't want to put Mario in it. No, you don't understand. Like, if we're paying for this, we're gonna put Mario in it. Mm-hmm. And then Microsoft years ago, like, oh, you want to make like a tactical co-op, like a RTS game? All right, it's gonna be Halo Wars. Like, no, you don't understand. We've got this cool idea. And Microsoft's like, no, you don't understand. Like, you're making a Halo game now. Like, you know. And so the crazy part is, the more that you and I have been talking about Square Enix as a whole, of the way they treat their developers, how are they ranked ahead of EA?
They don't do those surveys in Japan.
So it's like, oh, you want to make a Marvel game? Cool. We bought the license for you. Good job. That game didn't perform to our expectations. Oh, you want to make a Tomb Raider game, and we're gonna sell it to Xbox for a year's exclusivity. Oh, that game didn't make it reach our expectations. Like, oh, you want to make a Final Fantasy game? Okay, well, no, or you want to make this cool new spin-off Final Fantasy world style game. No, we're gonna make you a Final Fantasy game. No, you don't get it. I want to go the other direction. No, you don't understand. Like, you're making a Final Fantasy game now.
Yeah, it's just the fact that, like, you know, Nomura was making 13, and then he's like, I have this idea to do with offshoot called Versus 13, and then Square's like, no, just make it
that'll just be 15.
Yeah, just make it 15, but you can't use any of the characters from 13, and it can't be in the same universe as 13. But you can still make that game, but you just can't have anything to do with your original ideas. And then he makes Kingdom Hearts 3, and then in the middle of it, in the Toy Story level, he's like, I'm going to make the toys play a video game, and that video game is going to be 13 Versus. And then he finishes 3, and then is like, I'm going to fucking do it. Like, I'm going to make this game, but I'm going to call it that game that I put in Kingdom Hearts 3.
I get the same vibes like years ago when they announced like Super Smash Brothers Ultimate or whatever it was, and the guy's like, and it's being directed by this, and the guy's like sitting in the audience go, oh, really? I didn't know that.
Like, that's the same guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, is it?
For Final Fantasy 7 or whatever, I think.
Okay. Yeah, but they were like, "Oh, we're making a new Smash Brothers, being directed by him, by so and so," and he's like, "I didn't know that." Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I got them mixed up. It was definitely the Smash Brothers guy. He didn't know exactly they were going to announce the Smash Brothers, therefore he didn't know, like, oh, I guess I'm doing that. But for Nomura, I believe he was put on the credits for the Final Fantasy VII remake, and was when he was basically told, like, oh, I'm doing the art design for that? Okay. Like, I guess I could do that. So yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of like I wasn't expecting Kingdom Hearts 4 to be announced on like a Sunday morning. Like Sarah, it's like anytime there's like big news, Sarah's like up before me, wakes up and is just like Kingdom Hearts 4 was announced, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, was it? And then I look and it's just like, oh shit, it was.
Well, and they did that thing in the trailer too, where they like made it. You think it was like another version of 3.
No, so it was a mobile game announcement.
Well, no, yeah, there was 2 mobile game announcements.
Yeah, 2.
But I feel like when they were showing the Kingdom Hearts logo, like at the end of the 4, they were putting like they were like the Roman numeral 3 was like being slid into underneath it, and then when it hit, that's when it kind of just changed to the 4 symbol, and I was like, what? I was like, are they gonna like colon this game? Like,
well, and it's
Kingdom
funny.
Hearts 3 colon.
That's kind of what everyone.
Those mobile games actually look pretty good, by the way.
Yeah, no, definitely did. But it's one of those things where I think everyone was expecting a game announcement. But they were expecting like a side game, like an offshoot. They weren't expecting like a numbered Kingdom Hearts game to be announced. I do think this game is going to come out faster than people are expecting, but I still think it's like 3 years away.
I agree with the reason why it'd be faster than expecting, because they can use a lot of the previous assets and the Unreal movement.
Because the last one was
like
Unreal 4, so like they can transition over. But I also think Square's kind of in a mess right now that I don't think they can. Like, they're a busy company, but after the bath they took with their Western studios, or the supposed bath that they took with like those Western games, I don't think they can dick around and be like, okay, here's a 10-year cycle for the next Kingdom Hearts game. I'm thinking we're playing this in 2025, 2026, as opposed to, I think Kingdom Hearts 3 was announced in 2013 and then released in 2019, so 6 years. This was announced, 2022, so I think 4 years.
Is like this franchise has like the ability of people that I don't even realize that play video games sometimes. Like, hey, there's a new, like when 3 came out, like somebody that I worked with at another store was like, well, like, well, what are you doing? Like, oh, I'm playing Kingdom Hearts 3 this weekend. Like, oh, I didn't even know you played video games, because they're like, I'm playing Kingdom Hearts, like might be the only game they play every 5 years, but like they play it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely one of those franchises that brings people in, because, I mean, it's been around for 20 years, so, like, it hit, like, certain age groups at the right time that it's going to be, like, a forever game for them. So that
would be the person that would walk by, walk into a Best Buy and see, like, a stanchion sign that says Kingdom Hearts. They'd be like, oh, I guess I need a console and a game.
Yeah, no, and it's definitely what it is. And, like, I imagine, like, since it's going to be the first Kingdom Hearts in a new trilogy, because that's what they basically said. 3 ended its trilogy. Okay. This is a new arc. That this doesn't need to be the biggest game because it's the first in a new trilogy. So that should help them out a little bit. And as they've been going with the Kingdom Hearts games, 3 like had Disney stuff, but the Disney stuff wasn't that important. So I imagine this game, they're going to be moving even further from that, though there were hints at Star Wars in the trailer. So they will still have the Disney and potentially now Star Wars aspect to it. But I feel like it won't be that big a deal. Therefore, it'll take less time because they're not having to like figure out all that stuff that they had to
What
previously.
Does our stormtrooper have to look like?
Yeah. And I would imagine they have that stuff down because, Kingdom Hearts 3 is 2019, Unreal Engine 4. So, like, to your point, they're going to reuse assets. So they're going to reuse some of those worlds. So in reality, they're probably just going to be adding a couple worlds to this new game. So if it means the game comes out a little bit faster, I'm fine with that, even if it seems a little, like, smaller in comparison. Because 3 definitely felt kind of small in the grand scheme of things, especially compared to 1 and 2. So I'm fine doing that. Let's start a new arc. I want to see what happens to Sora. I want to see what the real Riku looks like if they transition all these characters into this like real world. I want to see what all these characters look like and see what they have to handle. So I was excited for this.
Yeah. No, awesome. It was cool. There was lots of chatter around it on a Sunday morning for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So we do have something, unfortunately, that has been delayed. So 2 Points Campus delayed from May to August. So
Yeah.
I don't know what this is.
So 2 Point, it's like one of those like kind of cheeky simulation games, kind of like almost SimCity like. So this one, they had originally did 2 Point Hospital like 3 years ago, and then now they were doing like a university game. So I know some people really do like these games. I just never got into them.
Yeah. So, all right. What we're playing and watching. You want to go first?
Yeah, mine is really short, kind of boring. All I've been playing is MLB The Show 22 on the Xbox, which is still weird to say. I didn't have to buy it, so I that's the platform I'm playing it on. Yeah, I just got really into that because I kind of skipped last year. Like, I dabbled in it when it hit Game Pass, but I didn't really spend too much time with it. But I'm already like 10 games into a franchise season. Haven't started a Road to the Show player because I might pick it up on a Switch, and I think that's where I'm going to want to live my Road to the Show experience.
Moving back and forth, though.
You can, but I just want to, for some reason, I'm just like, Road to the Show, Switch, perfect. So I'm just messing with the franchise mode. So doing that, and I feel like I pay enough attention to baseball, but as I gotten older, I only focus on my team, which is the White Sox.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm basically like relearning other teams' rosters right now because my stuff is just like 3 years outdated in terms of like pitchers that I remember are good are now towards the end.
So-and-so's on that team?
Yeah, basically. To where it's like, if they're not rivals to the White Sox, I have no idea who's on their roster.
So if they're not the Guardians, the Tigers, or the Twins,
Dude,
you don't really pay attention to them. Did you not know they were called the Guardians?
No, I forgot. So then when I looked at like when I opened franchise mode and it showed the standings and it said White Sox, Royals, Guardians, I was just like, oh yeah, I forgot that fucking happened. But yeah, like I did the thing where I like kind of searched for my favorite players and I forget, like, I'm like, oh God, Felix Hernandez is like out of the league now. Like, so I can't just trade for him right away. Oh shit. Yeah. So it's just been a lot of MLB The Show. I did want to play that Weird West game that's also on Game Pass. I downloaded it, but just didn't get a chance to mess with it today. So that's just been primarily. I am reviewing a game for the Switch, but it's still under embargo. I think it's under embargo for like 2 more days. So I'll talk about that next week on the podcast. And then watched Moon Knight. Finally watched like the first 2 episodes.
I haven't watched any of that.
Yeah.
But I also never finished Hawkeye.
So I like Moon Knight. It's interesting, but I don't know if I'm like into it yet. Like, I'm looking forward to the 3rd episode, but it hasn't really won me over.
I've heard some chatter about that people are like, one of those things where like, I don't know what's going on. Not like I don't know what's going on in WandaVision, where I'm interested more of what's not going on. I don't understand what's going on, and it's almost like that they're trying to. I haven't seen a single second of this. When I say this is just some other Facebook groups I'm a part of, but it almost like they're trying to do like a psychological thing in the show.
Yeah,
like a psychological thriller.
Aspects,
yeah, and they're like, people aren't really sure if the Marvel universe is the best place to do that.
Yeah, it's definitely something that, like, as they're doing the psychological and the suspense stuff, there's still a guy that needs to get into a costume, in the show, and I don't know if it quite hits yet.
Yeah. But Marvel's always been able to balance that comedic aspect to it, and it sounds like on the surface, it sounds like that's missing from this.
Yeah, they definitely are trying to throw some humor in there. I just don't know quite if it's sticking. But I'm still interested enough because the actor, I really like Oscar Isaac, and I think Ethan Hawke is doing decent in the role as like the main villain, or we assume he's the villain right now. So there's definitely aspects that like I want to like and I'm interested in, but it's just not pulling me in to where WandaVision, Loki, and even Hawkeye to a certain extent, where like as soon as the episode was over, I'm like, I can't wait for next week. The first 2 episodes of Moon Knight, I've just been like, okay, and then I forget it's on, and then I'm like, oh shit, I should probably watch Moon Knight.
It's not. It's like, oh, it's oh, today's Friday. Oh, this episode came out 2 days ago. Versus like, oh, it's Wednesday. I'm watching it. Like,
yeah.
I don't have to be to work for 3 hours. I'm watching it. Like,
last week, literally, it's like Wednesday night, and I'm like, oh shit, Moon Knight. I'll watch it tomorrow, and then I like find something else. So versus
like before, like when Mandalorian and WandaVision and stuff was out, like you wouldn't touch your phone on Fridays because you're like, I don't want it to be spoiled. Like,
yeah, no, I literally muted like WandaVision and Loki.
So obviously, like we have always talked about that. Like it's always going to kind of like the momentum's going to slow, but at the same time, like when and if another Mandalorian comes, like it'll go right back to that. You know, if they ever do, like I don't think they are, but if they are ever to do a second season of a WandaVision thing, like it would draw that type of attention, and I don't know I don't know why they're missing that right now, but it's definitely not there yet.
Yeah, it
could just be pandemic too. It literally could be the pandemic. So
yeah, especially as things are opening up more, people aren't necessarily wanting to stay home.
No, I meant trying to make the shows during the pandemic.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm having a prospect of like it's starting to get nice out and stuff's open again to where it's just like, oh, maybe I don't want to watch this right now and be inside.
Right.
So that's pretty much it for me. So pretty simple, basic week for me. MLB The Show, hey, turns out still a good baseball game after all these years.
Shocking.
It's so weird because like it's almost egregious how little attention MLB The Show gets in terms of being like consistently good every single year, as opposed to Madden, FIFA, and 2K, which you can flip a coin whether it's going to be a good one or a bad one.
Yeah, you definitely have your hardcore MLB The Show fans that are like, I can't believe that this wall is only 6 feet tall when it's supposed to be 9. Like, you have those people. But for the most part, like the audience is just like, you know what? It's a baseball game that I can create my player and I can play, or I can build my super team, or I can just play a season.
Yeah. Why can't the other games do that? It's probably because the other games are... But it, like... MLB The Show is interested in the gambling because it's got like their card packs and stuff.
The Ultimate Team, or and then it's got the microtransactions for like the cosmetics and everything too. Like they've just handled it very, very well. Like they haven't been. People aren't like, I can't believe it cost $5 for me to hit the ball better. I spent $6 on a red dot sight.
Yeah.
In a Call of Duty game, but like you don't have any of that craziness happening in, at least not that I'm hearing about. Like you're getting from Sony San Diego. Like they just make, like, to your point, like they don't have any peaks. They don't really have any valleys. They just continuously go the same plane, the same direction, and it's more than adequate.
Yeah.
Like
it just frustrates as someone who started to play the basketball games the last 3 years and already hit the point where I was like, oh, this...
Or like to your point, like they haven't made a good wrestling game since Super Nintendo?
No, N64. PS2. But yeah, just the idea that like I played NBA 2K the last 3 years and I think only one of them was okay. And that's the best I can say. As opposed,
and you never really see the show go on sale. Like I know it's on Game Pass, but you don't, like, you'll see 2K, like it'll come out in October, and then like Christmas, Black Friday weekend, it's like $20, $25. MLB The Show is just always $60.
Yeah, they don't hit sale really until like
All-Star Game.
Yeah, and maybe. Even then it drops down to 40, and then it'll finally hit 20, like a couple months before
after
the new
World
season.
Series.
Yeah,
like after the World Series.
Yeah. So.
Well, the funny part is, like, we've been talking about since, like, like a year ago this time, we were talking about it coming to Game Pass in general. Like, I don't think last year's is off Game Pass.
No, it finally hit the going away soon.
Okay.
Because I was just looking at...
But that doesn't really hurt anybody, because now the new one's there. You just transfer your character.
I think they took transfers away. Like, transfers wasn't there last year. I think transfers isn't back this year.
Oh, I thought that you had an account. Like, I thought you had a MLB The Show account, and it just kind of like...
No, not between games. Like, one of our friends was complaining that there's no player transfer again this year.
Huh. Okay. I haven't seen that. I mean, I don't, most of the time I just start over.
You can move your character between platforms, but you can't move them between year to year. I believe is how it works, which sucks.
Okay.
You think that'd be easier than platform to platform, but eh.
All right, so for me, Owen was on spring break last week. I was not, and so Angela and Owen were both home. And Owen got on a regular Minecraft kick, so I downloaded Minecraft on Xbox for him. I have it on PlayStation as well, and He has a PS4 in his bedroom, and he just does not want to play video games in his bedroom. Like, it's really weird. So he was doing that for a little bit, making some of those, basic worlds. So if you see me on Discord playing Minecraft, like, it's not me. However, I did decide when I forgot, but when I was looking to download Minecraft, like, Minecraft Dungeon was there. And I was like, wait, this is a local co-op game that Owen and I can play together.
Yeah.
Michael's cat just
walked all
across
over
his
the keyboard.
desk and shook his desk too.
Okay, cat. Oh my god. I know, like, I was looking at Audacity. I was like, don't you hit Audacity right now. Okay. Continue, Dave.
So I was like, okay, like, we could try this. I've heard some really cool things about Minecraft Dungeons. I should be able to play it with him. The first thing that I realized is that I had not created, nor do I think I'm going to create, an Xbox account for Owen. So when you sign in for local co-op, it's like, good Dave Hunting, player 1 guest.
Yeah.
So this is supposed to be like a Diablo light game. It's definitely very easy to pick up and to play. I feel like it scales heavily towards, as it should. It scales heavily towards multiple players.
The cats just fought over my shoulder. Sorry, Dave. Like, between my internet and my cats, they are just anti-podcast today.
So what I also noticed is, like, so like, we've been able to play, and it's fine. It works. I don't like, they're telling a very basic story. It's fun. You get like a crossbow or like a bow and arrow style thing, but you get different ones. You get a lot of loot in the game, but I feel like it doesn't reward the second player at all. Like, there's certain things that drop in the game that are, color coded to the player, and I don't know if it's to the player that earned it or to the player that got, like, the final shot, like, got the kill. But he was getting kind of annoyed that he wasn't getting stuff, and I was like, oh, it's just it's just RNG. You're just having a bad run. And then, like, 4 or 5 armor pieces later, it still wasn't dropping for him, and I was like, all right, here, bud, we can switch controllers for a little bit. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
But it's fun. I would definitely love to maybe play online with somebody, or just have him kind of join the game and goof around, just so I can see what it's like with 3 players or 4 players. But it's definitely fun. It's on everything. It's on PlayStation. It's on Xbox. It's on PC. It's on Game Pass. Obviously, I think it's on Game Pass for PC as well, because it's a Microsoft game. So I'm pretty sure it is. So I would love to try some of that stuff out, or check it out with anybody in the community that's playing it or thinks they'd be interested in it. It definitely has a lot of loot, and a lot of upgrading and leveling. Like, that's all there. The levels are very basic. I haven't seen them do anything like extravagant yet. So, and then Owen and I also went to see Sonic the Hedgehog 2. That was good. I probably should have watched the first one again before I went to the second one, and I didn't. But overall, it was good. They're hinting at, Jim Carrey's hinting at retiring from acting in general. So, and they pretty much said that they wouldn't cast another Dr. Robotnik. So, this is not going to be like any like amazing movie, but there's definitely some funny moments in it that make you laugh, and I enjoyed it, and he was able to sit through the whole movie, so that's a huge bonus as a 6.5-year-old. So
yeah, I still haven't seen the first one, and my friends want to go see the second one.
I would say it's on like all the streaming.
Yeah, it's on Amazon, so I could totally watch it. I just haven't got around to it.
It's not like, I don't think you're gonna walk away and be like, oh, that was amazing. You're gonna walk away and be like, okay.
It's a Sonic movie. I don't think you should have any expectations for that.
Right, and it was fine. That was all fine. And we took Owen to Lego. There's a Legoland near home, like 45 minutes from our house. We took Owen to Legoland over the weekend. Let him play. Let him go to town. There's some pretty cool stuff in those places. But it was just trying to like make sure he had a good end of his spring break. And we've got a lot of stuff coming up. I've got Jonathan's graduation from college, Jonathan's wedding, family vacation. Like May to July is pretty busy, so there's definitely a lot of things going on. But that's it for the most part for playing and watching. So
I'm just waiting for these cats to fight. They're both looking at each other, like they're getting ready.
You look the other way, like you're kind of like protecting his monitors and his keyboards.
Both cats just got very territorial over this desk. My tuxedo cat is protecting the desk. I appreciate it, but he's also the weakest cat that we have. So,
All right. So questions and comments using hashtag AskDigitalDays. You can send us those using that hashtag. You can put them on Facebook. You can put them on Twitter. Any of those. So Ali Bartle wrote, would Dave want Baker Mayfield to wind up in Detroit? So anybody that doesn't pay attention to sports, like Randy, every time we talk about it, he's like, what's that? So Baker Mayfield is still currently the quarterback, a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, who just got a new quarterback, Deshaun Watson, from the Texans. And then, so now Baker Mayfield is more than likely going to be dealt somewhere else, probably here pretty quickly, like drafts near the end of this month, so it's probably going to happen here pretty soon. And the question is, would I want him in Detroit, where Detroit is allegedly lacking a quarterback? And the answer to that question right now is no. I'm not super impressed with Baker Mayfield. In terms of, I do watch a lot of football. But if Randy's in the chat, making fun of me. But the Lions are not at a point where they are more than a quarterback away, and he's not the quarterback that they are away from anyways. So
would he be a good temporary quarterback?
We have a temporary quarterback that takes up $30 million of our cap, which is Jared Goff.
Oh, okay, never mind.
So.
Is Baker Mayfield the fuckboy that is almost out of the league, or am I getting that confused with another?
Not sure who you're referring to. Baker Mayfield.
There's a guy now. He's playing. I think So Baker Mayfield still plays in the NFL, right?
Yeah, he played last season.
Okay,
yes.
I'm thinking of the guy who's now in like the fan-controlled league.
Are you talking about like Johnny Manziel?
There we go. That guy. Never mind. Would Johnny Manziel be perfect for the Lions right now?
Yeah, no, okay. So
couldn't think of a way to describe him.
Yeah. Would my answer be different next year when Jared Goff's contract is a lot more user friendly for other teams and he won't like devastate our salary cap? Like, sure. But the Lions traded Matthew Stafford away to the Rams, for obviously, and then he won a Super Bowl. But we got a ton of draft picks. The Lions got a ton of draft picks for them, and the team is just multiple pieces away from competing right now. Like, this next year is going to be rough again. So, but I think they're going to be better than the Bears. But Michael doesn't really care because he doesn't like the Bears.
Nah,
Or he doesn't like football.
Yeah, I don't like football. I just
yeah.
I just hear things.
But enough that the Bears aren't going to be good enough for it even to invade Michael's aura.
Thankfully, yeah, because holy shit, when the Bears are like capable of
you live in a football town.
Yeah,
like you live in a football town. So when your football team is good, everybody knows your football team is good.
Yeah, but
you actually live in what I think is a really cool sports town. Than actually all four of them. But when one of the sports is doing really well, like. It's what's going on. Like there are some.
But Bears fans are so annoying because they'll be like, "Hell, we got 6 wins this season. We're improving," and it's just like, you win 6-10 or some shit. Like, shut up. Like that's not good.
Your greatest show in town right now is the Bulls.
Yeah, and they are like barely crawling to the playoffs right now.
Yeah. So. But it's still better than any of the four teams for Detroit right now. Although, we got opening day over the White Sox, but we got pummeled the next 2 days.
Yeah. I was worried that it was going to be a bad opening.
I thought about texting you on Friday, after the way that game ended, and I was like, I'm going to wait for the rest of the series to play out. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be quiet.
Yeah. Because everything.
You're the main competition in that division right now.
Yeah, everything was working out. Like Giolito got injured, Anderson was suspended, Liam Hendricks blew a save. It was all looking great that week for Detroit, or that day.
Yeah. And then Justin Duncan writes a question that's more centric for Michael. Thoughts on why Cody Rhodes returned to WWE, and do you think that he will be a WWE champion before his contract is up?
So I think it's still really weird that Cody Rhodes helped found AEW and then spent his entire 3 years there saying WWE sucks and it's a horrible place to go to wrestle. And then he asks AEW for more money and they say no. So then he signs with the WWE again. And now he's saying, I'm home. Super fucking weird. It's like he wants us to have amnesia like he wasn't.
Yeah, but the fans can see through that.
Oh yeah, they totally can. And it's going to, right now the WWE fans are just happy because it's very tribal. So they're like, hell yeah, WWE fans, they got one. And that's only going to last for a couple weeks before they're like, oh, here's the guy who we didn't like when he was here before is now here.
It's like a guy being on the White Sox as a killer to the Cubs all the time, and then he signs with the Cubs. Like, oh, we love you.
Yeah, no, it's pretty much. So, still find it pretty weird.
Randy and Wyatt are so confused about any kind of thing.
We talked about Kingdom Hearts earlier, so like, Wyatt should be good. And he will probably be champion. They're apparently paying him like $3 to $5 million a year. That's champion money, so it's probably in his contract that he will be champion at one point, probably sooner rather than later. So he will be champion. It will be weird, and then he will be chasing the 24/7 title, which Dave doesn't know what that reference means, but it's bad. He'll be running around chasing a 24/7 title in probably a year. The ones that get it, they get it.
Yeah. All right, and our last question of the night comes from Jacob Tyler Blacker. I just played and beat Hollow Knight for the first time. It's a few years old, but it was an amazing game. An indie game for Michael and a Metroid game for Dave. Have you played it? Thoughts? How did I miss this game? So no, I have not played it. I did just see it show up on a couple of like top 5 like Metroidvania style games that you should play. I've heard good things about it before. And now pretty much after this question, like I'm probably just going to move it up some of my lists here pretty soon as part of my games for this year. Hopefully. I think it's on Game Pass.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have this game downloaded in multiple areas. I think it was in Game Pass and I had it downloaded. Don't know if
Did I get it on Plus? Did I get it on Plus?
I feel like it might have been. I did download this game on Game Pass, and then I also downloaded it on Switch, but I just never got around to it. And the reason, like, every time I picked it up, it was after someone praised how this is one of the greatest Metroidvanias of the last 10 years. So it's something that, like, I've been wanting to play. It's on my list, but it just, every time I'm sitting down, like, I'm going to play Hollow Knight, something else comes out, and then I just don't get around to it. So it's something I have access to. Either if it's still
I have it on PlayStation, so if I have it on PlayStation, you have it on PlayStation.
Yeah, most likely. So yeah, damn, that means I have it on 3 platforms. I really got to manage my money better.
Well, it probably, if I have it on PlayStation, it's probably from a Plus thing.
No, I know, but I bought it on Switch, which means I spent money because Switch doesn't do things nice like that. But yeah, it's definitely on my list. It probably would be a perfect game for Dave to throw on his beat 12 games in a year list, especially because everyone that I know that has played Hollow Knight absolutely loved it. Yeah, it's up there with Shovel Knight.
It's on Game Pass as well.
Yeah. So, yeah. Sorry,
I don't have it on Switch though, so I'm not as good as Michael. Apologies.
Yeah, I'm just bad with money, and I just buy games sometimes.
So now I have to decide which console to play it on, which means I'm going to take like another month to play it. No, I'm kidding.
Just whatever console Owen doesn't have the controller for currently.
Well, like I said, it might be actually, you know what? I'll play it on the Xbox if I can come down to the office and stream it, because it's super. I don't have to bring either console downstairs to stream on Game Pass PC games.
Yeah, there you go.
Just stream right off my gaming PC, so then I can stream it. So, all right. So that is it for our show this week. Again, you can always send us questions using hashtag AskDigitalDays. And you can send those throughout the week. You don't have to wait for any kind of Facebook post or Twitter question polls or any of that stuff. So feel free to send those. As always, like, helping with the review and sharing the show is super helpful. Socials, you can follow the main account is at Digital Days Pod. Michael's is at the first MJC. And mine is at Good Dave Hunt. Facebook group and Discord server are linked in the show notes. Patreon is there as well. You can check that out. Teesprings is there if you want some t-shirts. It was like 75 degrees in Michigan today for a little bit. So if you want some DDG t-shirts, you can do those. If you need some hoodies, just for like hoodie and jean weather, if you're going out at night, that's one of my favorite times of the year right now, like March and April, when I can just put on like a hoodie and a pair of jeans and go out. So that you can get them there as well. PayPal is there if you just want to feel like throwing us a couple bucks. Again, no pressure, obviously, to any of that stuff. Those are just multiple ways that you can support and help us grow. So other than that, I hope everyone has a great week. Keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.